Almost 4 weeks after the incident, a neighbor admits hearing a scream, and a police chief says he didn't know that the door was open at 8:30 in the morning. Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Can you believe it? A neighbor admitting only now, 4 weeks later, saying, I didn't think it was really important. And also the police chief saying, well, I didn't know about the door being wide open, the front door. Almost 4 weeks later. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that incredible? Get this, and this is from Fox News, quote, a man who lives near the home where 4 University of Idaho students were killed, is actually a chef, a local chef, has come forward about hearing a scream early on the morning of the attacks, that is November 13th, that Sunday morning. And that is according to a local report, also in the area of the crime scene. His name, Inan Harsh, I think that's his name, Inan Harsh, something like that. He got home around 1:30 in the morning, and then apparently as he was falling asleep at about 4 a.m., that's when he said he thought he heard a scream. But he associated the scream with partying, what he called a party sound. He associated the scream with that. And he didn't think it was very negative, and unfortunately he didn't check. One wonders if he'd checked then, would he have found or would he have seen the door to 1122 open. So he told local news, I didn't think anything of it. After what happened, I've definitely had second thoughts. He says maybe it was not a party sound. He reportedly said he did not initially tell police about the sound, adding, I'm not sure what good it does for them now. Well, it actually does a lot of good. We'll get to that in a moment. Before we do, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, please share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So it does do a lot of good sharing the possibility that what he heard, obviously it's subjective, but maybe he did hear a scream. It suggests that not all victims were killed in their sleep or even in their beds. And also, if a neighbor heard a scream, why didn't the survivors in the house? It's an issue intertextual to the Ramsey case, where neighbors also said they heard a child scream in the middle of the night. Now, regarding the open door, I don't know about you, I've known since day one of this case that the front door was left open. We also knew that the front door has a keypad. And we assume that the perpetrator had gotten in there because he was one of many partygoers who'd gone in there previously. And that knowledge was not that the sliding door was open or unlocked. The front door was visibly open. Can you believe it? It's taken until now, just short of 4 weeks, for law enforcement to find this out. But one thing I didn't know was the source for that information. And now, today, we have it. A neighbor said that the front door, which gives access to the floor where 2 of the victims' roommates were staying, right, the survivors, was open at 8:30 a.m. on November 13th. It's always frustrating just how unclear some of these news reports are. You need to say where the victims' roommates, the survivors, were staying. In other words, the first floor. So can you see the front door was open for close to 5 hours before someone noticed it was open, before 911 was called, and perhaps even close to twice that in terms of total time. So if the crime happened at around 4 o'clock, just before 4 o'clock in the morning, that door was open 4 to 5 hours. And one wonders, did it not bang? Did it not open and close in the wind? And did that also not rouse the surviving roommates? So how does one make sense of it hypothetically? The front door's open, but the bedroom doors inside the house are closed and possibly locked as well. How does that make sense? I do think it's natural to assume the front door being open early-ish in the morning suggests the killer beat a hasty exit. He sort of was running out the front door and didn't bother to close it. In the same way that he may have driven away hastily, causing skid marks. Now, although that's natural to assume, I suppose it could also mean he entered through the front door and left it open as an intended exit. He left the door open so he wouldn't have to, perhaps if he was running away from someone or trying to leave the house as fast as possible, he wouldn't have to stop to open the door. But then he changed his plans midway through the execution of the crime, and he exited instead through the sliding door, perhaps after waking someone up halfway through and being intercepted. And perhaps that's where the scream came in. It's possible the killer also carried one or more victims back to their bedrooms and their beds in order to seal them behind a closed door and increase his head start or getaway time. Does that make sense? I think it's a very sad, disturbing, but important question to ask. If someone did scream, who was it likely? Was it a man's scream or a woman's scream? If it was a woman's scream, who screamed? Was it Madison? Was it Kaylee? Was it Zana? I don't know why, but I think it is more likely to be Kaylee screaming if she had more defensive wounds than anyone else. And then I also think it's likely to be Zana, because I think she is possibly one of the last victims of the attack. I think the least likely person to have screamed is Madison, but of course that is certainly speculation. Now, according to Fox News, quote, a 911 call about a possible unconscious person was made from the phone of one of two surviving roommates around noon, right? So that is for how long that door stood open after the neighbors spotted it. From 8:30 in the morning till around noon. Incidentally, there's talk about the audio of the 911 call being released soon, so let's look out for that. Now, in my previous video, I incorrectly stated that the girls didn't pay for their food. There was a slight issue with paying, and that's part of why Kaylee was looking on her phone. She may have been paying via a loyalty system with the grub truck vendor, but didn't have enough points. The point is, there was anomalous behavior from the vendor's perspective as well, and Kaylee couldn't afford to buy a meal for both of them, so they ended up sharing a carbonara. As I understand it, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the girls didn't wait to get their food like everyone else, but instead got their food by taking someone else's. That's something that I've heard, and it kind of makes sense. Think about Beard Guy, for example. He was already waiting for his food when the girls show up, and he only gets his food after they leave. In true crime, the details matter, and so I hope this version is more accurate and an improvement on the last, and we'll continue to try to improve. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.